Storm-related news, and Bell has us covered with what's been going on at least to me, it looks like a pretty decent past few weeks for the Storm, including the All-Star game on Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. Not a terrible couple weeks for the Storm. So they had a very impressive win against the Las Vegas Aces on the 29th. Our player of the game, sorry, that was a win 88-78. Our player of the game for that game was Jewel Lloyd. She had 24 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists, and was 4 of 6 from 3. And then Sue Bird actually would set the WNBA career record in wins that win. She takes sole possession of most wins of any player in the WNBA history after Storm's win over the Aces with 324 wins. On July 1st, we move on to their matchup against the Indiana Fever. That was also a win, 73-57, a very commanding win for the Storm. Our player of the game was Brianna Stewart. She had 20 points, 3 assists, and 6 rebounds. And some more accolades here. Tina Charles moved to the number 4 slot in the all-time scoring list. So congrats to Tina Charles. On the 3rd at the Atlanta Dream, it was a loss, unfortunately, 90-76. Our Storm lost the lead a little bit early, and they just never fully recovered or couldn't get across that hump there. So we move on to against the Indiana Fever again on the road. That was a win, 95-73. A player of the game again, Jewel Lloyd, 25 points, 3 assists, 3 steals, plus 22. And on the 7th, another very commanding win against the LA Sparks with a 106-69 win. Our player of the game there again, Brianna Stewart, 23 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and plus 20 when she was on the court. Something I'd like to note just there for the games that were played before the All-Star game, Tina Charles has really seemed to find her footing with the team. She started gradually, and against the Fever, she had 13, I believe. Against the Sparks in that commanding win, she had 18. So it seems like she's finding her groove with the team, which is what Coach Quinn was kind of waiting for her to get familiar with the plays and familiar with the team in general. So for all those games that I just listed, we only had one player out, and that was Mercedes Russell with that non-basketball injury that she's been struggling with. So still looks like it's lingering there. And as we move over to some team notes here, as I stated, Seattle did sign Tina Charles for the rest of the season on June 28th. She seems to be doing great from what I've noticed from when she's on the court. She really grabs other players' attention, so she gets double teams. That brings other players to be open on the court. So a great addition for Seattle for sure. On the 1st, 3 Storm players were named to the WNBA All-Star game. That was Sue Bird, who was a starter and co-captain, to Brianna Stewart, who was also starter and co-captain, and Jewel Lloyd was a reserve, and they were all on Team Stewart. And I believe Stewie actually traded for Lloyd in that draft. So, of course, wanting to keep all her teammates together. On the 5th, Brianna Stewart was named WNBA Western Conference Player of the Month. She averaged 22 points per game, 7 rebounds per game, and 3 assists per game in 11 games for Seattle in June. She scored in double figures in each game during the month, including a season-high 32-point and 11-rebound double-double at Dallas on June 10th. That was one of the 5 games she scored at least 20 points during the month. It is the 3rd time Stewart has earned the monthly award, previously receiving the recognition in May 2021 and July 2018. Moving on here, on the 6th, Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi will be on the WNBA edition cover of NBA 2K23. Of course, as an ode to 2 of the players who we call the GOAT. Of course, I'm a little biased, so I'm going to give it to Sue Bird. But yes, congratulations to both of them for making the cover. And in some league-related notes, there is some more information regarding Brittany Griner. On the 5th, Cheryl Griner, Brittany Griner's wife, says that President Joe Biden has not responded to the letter sent to him regarding the WNBA star's return from Russia. If you guys remember, Brittany sent Joe a letter saying that she missed her family, she missed her teammates, she missed everybody, and she wanted his help in doing what he could do to bring her home. So nothing in that regard yet. On the 6th, POTUS VP talked to Griner's wife. President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris spoke with Cheryl Griner, assuring her that an active pursuit of Brittany Griner's release is taking place. On the 7th, Griner pled guilty. Brittany Griner pleaded guilty to drug charges in a Russian court and faces up to 10 years in prison. But pleading guilty is a big key and a potential trade to get Griner home. So more developing news on that. On the 9th, former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson, who has aided prisoner releases worldwide, is reportedly headed to Russia to help free Griner. So we have, I believe, mentioned before that there is interest in a prisoner swap. So we'd get Griner back and Russia would get one of their prisoners back. So it looks like things are in motion for that, which is, if that's the way that we're going to get Brittany Griner home, then let's do it.
What do you think about that past week? I mean, obviously you look at it, and on the 5th, there was the thing about Cheryl, being like, hey, you haven't replied to that. And obviously there have been a lot of calls for Biden and Harris to make more action in that regard. And, at the end of the day, I don't like stepping into the politics kind of regard, but at the end of the day, it's like, hey, what is being actively done? Because obviously, as you mentioned at the end there is that talk about the swap. But, I read some things about somebody who was there, who tweeted about it in the court for that. Apparently, there's a lot of things about, she was trafficking a lot of, at the end of the day, I believe it was like a tiny, forgot, was like a CBD tiny cart. It was very minuscule. And at the end of the day, at the end of the day, the most that this was a hostage situation. With everything that's taken place with Russia, there's no way that that's not what this is. And, so I just think that this is ridiculous. So anybody who's saying, oh, she did this, she should serve her time, screw that. That's ridiculous. And I am just, we've kept an eye on this since it's been developing, right? So it's just interesting to continue to watch this. But again, we're in July now. There was a time period earlier in the year where there was hope that she would be back before the season started, So again, it's interesting to try to follow what's actually being done to get Brittany home. And, obviously people are going to see guilty. Oh, she did it. It's like, well, that's a big key in trying to bring her actually home anyway. So it's like, so we'll keep an eye on that. But I don't know. It was just kind of interesting throughout, these last 2 weeks to kind of see what's happening, all this stuff related to her. So hoping that we have more positive updates, I guess, as things continue.
Yes. Just to kind of go off of what you're saying as well, I don't know if the two crimes technically align. So it seems very much like Russia is in benefit of themselves, of course. So again, getting away from politics, though, let's move on here because we do have some exciting news, some NBA news, actually. The Climate Pledge Arena will host a preseason game. The Clippers and the Blazers will play in Seattle on October 3rd. So it's sure to be a packed house. I mean, we should make it a packed house. Let's show everybody that we want our NBA back. So yeah, that's definitely exciting. And I believe Jamal Crawford had a hand in that. So moving on here on the 10th, the All-Star game, of course, which was yesterday. Team Asia Wilson did unfortunately beat Team Brianna Stewart 134-112, and Kelsey Plum dropped 30 and was awarded the MVP, which she honored Brittany Griner when receiving that. And Sylvia Fowles and Sue Bird got standing ovations as they check out of their final All-Star game together. It's important to note as well that after the halftime, all players were wearing Griner and her number 42 jerseys. So again, standing with Brittany Griner. The Storm record currently sits at 15-8. We are second in the Western Conference and second in Commissioner's Cup for the Western Conference. Looking ahead, they have a July 12th matchup versus the Dallas Wings, which I think we were talking about weird early starts earlier. That is 12 p.m. tomorrow. So yeah, interesting.
Noon on a Tuesday?
Interesting midweek game there. And then July 17th against the Indiana Fever once again, and that's at 3 p.m. And we can now move on to our Sounders.
A noon start is ridiculous on any weekday. So yeah, that's a little bizarre.